For Peter Goldsworthy, who is a member of the Germania Air Rifle Club, it is the second time he has represented the country. He competed in the South Pacific regional titles last year. Peter leaves for Mexico on Monday, where he will face the best shooters from 40 countries, but he says he has the form necessary to win.
Well, the standard in this country is quite good. The current Australian record is 587, which compares against the current world record of 590. The competitors from Australia have scores in that vicinity, so I think our chances are as good as any.
Right, who do you see as being your major competition?
The Scandinavian countries are always very strong. Russian, USA and France, all very good rifle shooting countries.
Will the conditions in Mexico with the high altitude, will that affect you at all?
Well, it has proved in past events there that there is some atmospheric effects, particularly from the altitude, the pressure differences, temperature a little bit. But with a bit of practice beforehand, training on the range, that shouldn't be any problem.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Dr. Currow was all smiles last night in the company of Mrs. Maggie Bowman, who was re-elected to the post of College Council President.
Now,
the election of Dr. Currow as Vice
I guess
President
there's several
comes
things
at a
I'd
time
be concerned
when the
with.
college scene has been changed
One is
by
to
the
see a
introduction
very
of
good
hundreds of
relationship,
nurses.
good spirit within the college.
The
A major
council is
lack of
responsible
funds.
for major
That's
Now,
right.
where does that lie at the moment? What
And
is the
Dr. Currow says
situation?
there are two issues
I
he would like
think
to
this
see
college is
addressed.
still in trouble from that. Well, I think there are two concerns that I'd like to just mention very briefly. One is that we're delighted to see the way that the academic standing of the college has been maintained and improved over the last several years, and I'm sure that all the members of the council would be interested to see and vitally concerned to see that that improvement is continued. I think the other point that I would raise here particularly is that of seeing a very good working relationship between council and academic and other staff and students in the college.
Mrs. Bowman, the council will have to deal with some problems. One of them would be funding.
Well, that's a perennial problem for any educational institution, I think. We have on the new council, as a staff elected member, Mr. Bill Casey, who's the Student Services Officer, so it's a matter that's very much in the forefront of his mind, and it's a matter that we will be taking a continuing interest in.
From this Saturday, when the first
some of you may not have known much about SG Credit Union before, but you might be interested to know that there are 10 of these banners, which will appear at the people involved may like to put those on their cars.
On behalf of the SG Credit Union, to give you that cheque.
Take it, look at it yourself.
Make sure it's right. Okay, should we put it to
from the referees.
Thank you very much.
The president of the rugby union, then received an $8,000
Jack.
John, on behalf of Newcastle.
Lake Macquarie, Maitland, Cessnock and Port Stephens. The money will promote matches between the 55 senior clubs in that area, but it will also be used to boost the lower levels of the sport.
So now that we've got $8,000 in sponsorship, we'll be able to do a little more towards the junior promotions, certainly a lot more towards the under-21 promotions, and most certainly a tremendous amount more to schoolboys.
Councils who have to approve it, the Housing Commission who builds low-income housing, the whole range.
And in a nutshell, what is it you suggest to these people? What do you tell them to look out for?
In a nutshell, simply to pay more attention to how their grandparents feel, or their older people feel about the way they're living now. Talk to your own parents, and then maybe you'll get it right.
Right, now what are the...
Peters says the majority of aged accommodation suffers from poor design.
They are making mistakes. You can drive around lots of retirement housing and you can find that people are overlooked. They don't have as much privacy as they should have. They have steps where they shouldn't have steps. They have ramps which they can trip over. They can't get out of the whole village to go into the shops. They're socially isolated. Some of the villages are a long way away from where people really need to live, and that's a great shame for them.
So in a nutshell, what are the positive things? What are you looking for in good retirement or old age accommodation?
What we're looking for is housing which is located in the right place. And that means close to shops, close to good public transport, close to commercial services, so that people can walk to them if they have to, so that they're not reliant upon somebody taking them in a car, not reliant on buses that don't run on Saturdays or Sundays. We're looking for properties that have a reasonable slope where somebody can get around in a wheelchair if they have to find themselves in a wheelchair and therefore don't have to move out.
The Arts Action Conference this weekend has attracted 7 guest speakers, including Professor Donald Horn, author of the Australian classic The Lucky Country, also chairman of the Australia Council. The conference has been organised by the Arts Action Committee and the Community Arts Centre. The Centre's Executive Director, Margaret Hughes, says the weekend's activities, including a new art exhibition, should have a two-pronged effect.
We will gain knowledge from people who are working in specialist areas, and these will be pertaining actually to survival skills for the artists. The second purpose is that they will understand our situation in Newcastle. We're sort of in fairly close proximity to Sydney, and therefore I wonder whether they think that we're just perhaps a suburb of Sydney and don't realise that we're the 6th largest city in Australia.
Now, the Community Arts Centre is in jeopardy. You've been told by the Premier's Department that the land is wanted for TAFE and Housing Commission. Do you think the conference shows the need for a centre like this in Newcastle?
I'm sure it does. When you see the number of people who have attended this conference, and these are practising artists and administrators and just people who are just plain interested in coming along to hear the speakers, it points out the fact that there is a need for a centre in Newcastle, that we are we're a living part of the community here.
At Warrabrook today, the Hunter's newest art gallery was also officially opened, and if it looks like a comfortable new home, that's exactly what it is. It's located in a commercial housing development, but it will be used to house the works of local artists. At present, painter Elaine Cowtree-Thurlow and potter Alan Mullard are exhibiting their work.
The Falcons' opening match of the 1984 National Basketball League season is underway now. Supersonics already with the ball. Kurt Forrester is the 11. This is the number 14, Scott Fenton, out of the Institute of Sport in Canberra. So he's had a good background to the game.
An all-time low during this period. They did come back though into the match with a fine performance by their best player, the former Globetrotter
Wayne Burton was the opening point guard, but Scott Fenton's come in to give them a bit more teamwork, and I'll be interested to see how he handles that role tonight.
Who's for first points on the board? Knocked away by Jim Bateman, but has been called for a foul.
He got the arm as well, so that's a...
College originally intended having only one intake this week, which made it home as a closed zone for nursing.
Possible strife, is it a reality? In other words, is the ideal?
In July. Ahead of the College of School of Paramedical and Community Welfare Studies, Dr. John Gay.
We are exploring the factors of having between 55 and 75 students come in. However, if these students meet our standards, only will we participate in a mid-year intake.
Why is the college considering this?
We were approached by the State Health Manpower Planning Group because of a perceived shortage of nurses in the Hunter in the future. They've asked us to re-examine the possibility of having a mid-year intake.
How much interest from the community would you need before the mid-year intake is finalised?
If we need to take in 65 students per se as an average, we would probably have to have at least 100 inquiries of qualified applicants because of our screening process.
Two nursing students today also received the first in a series of scholarships being offered by Hunter and Michelle Smith of Raymond Terrace and Ruth Newton scholarships valued $1,500.
Thank you very much.
Scholarships were made available by Commodore Aluminium for students from the Port Stephens Shire.
Wanted One Body is a send-up of those old-fashioned British thrillers where the main ingredients are several murders, disappearing bodies and a whole lot of eccentric suspects who are holed up together in an isolated house during, surprise, surprise, a thunderstorm. Well, it's a fun idea, but as with all spoofs, it needs to be done with a great deal of elegance and style to be really successful. Well, I thought that Newcastle Dramatic Art Club rather laid it on with a trowel, and the production was weighed down under too much overacting and face-pulling. Those who played it straight were the most successful. Well, the set, the lighting effects and the sound effects were all suitably sinister, and I thought the production had a nice sense of atmosphere. Well, if the actors can ham it up a bit less, I think they'll have more of a show in Wanted One Body.
Young audience. Children from 23 primary schools throughout Newcastle college introduction to the orchestra and instruments. The first work performed was Mozart's overture to the Marriage of Figaro, which met with rapturous applause. conductor Willie's first show and then introduced the different sections of the orchestra. But it was the copy of Peter and the Wolf with the narration by Professor David Scott which brought the house down. The work was familiar to many young ears, and not a murmur was heard during the entire performance. The orchestra repeated the program in the afternoon to the general public. It will also perform a new program at the City Hall this Wednesday.
An ex-student of Newcastle Girls High School, Jacqueline is widely regarded as an expert in marketing strategy and consumer research. In 1980, she was reputed to be the highest paid woman in Australia.
The company I run is really in social research, so we measure social change.
She believes the new establishment today is not the young people necessarily, but a cross-section of society. She believes the new consumer will bargain for convenience, will pay whatever the asking price for a watch.
From my experience, and my company does an enormous amount of test marketing, it is still considered the best, the most typical area of the entire population of Australia, which is interesting, I think.
Well, it is interesting when you consider that our unemployment rate is probably double anywhere else around Australia. Therefore, how can Newcastle be indicative?
Well, that was taken into consideration, and of course Wollongong suffered from this too, but when it was all measured out, and we did a lot of the measuring, despite the unemployment and despite the depression, it was still found to be better than any other region.
The new computer is housed in a special room at the Hunter District Water Board's King Street office. Valued around $1 million, the new computer is housed in a special room at the Hunter District Water Board's King Street office. Valued around $1 million, the digital VAC 8600 computer is the only one of its kind in New South Wales. It will replace the old system which consisted of a room full of computers which collectively have only 1/20th of the new machine's capacity. The Water Board's computer consultant, Mr Don Wheels, said the new system's main function is the provision of customer services.
What it means is that the ratepayer will get a much better level of service. We should be able to answer questions much more rapidly. To give you an example, we have several people in Newcastle who pay their rate bills twice, as if once isn't enough. And what it means is that some questions that take us 24 to 48 hours to answer now, we should be able to answer within 2 or 3 seconds.
The board says the new system will not only provide the most up-to-date service, but it also led to the world's first and controlled programming.
What we did actually, we've used the new computer to actually control its own programs and their development, and this is certainly a first in Australia, and it's a first in the world as well.
Are other organisations interested in the system?
Yes, we've sold 2 copies of this already, but not only that, the new customer service system, which is the one from which all the ratepayers benefit, we have been approached to sell this as well, which means that we should be offsetting the costs of the actual machines.